In the world of reality television, few couples have managed to command attention and admiration quite like Marsau and Latisha Scott. Through their appearances on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, the couple portrayed an aspirational narrative of love, ambition, and entrepreneurship. Marsau, the savvy and confident businessman, often spoke eloquently about building generational wealth, while Latisha embodied poise and supportive femininity. Together, they projected an image of unity, hustle, and Black excellence, an image that captivated audiences and elevated their brand far beyond television. Their growing popularity opened doors to multiple streams of income. From real estate investments to speaking engagements, brand endorsements, and social media influence, the Scotts cultivated a persona of success that resonated with viewers across demographics. Marsau was especially regarded as a man of vision, leading construction and development projects across Alabama with apparent confidence and precision. Latisha, though more reserved in public, was often celebrated for balancing motherhood, business, and marital support with grace. But what fans didn't see, what the cameras didn't capture, was the gradual erosion of trust that threatened to collapse the entire empire from within. As their business empire expanded, so did the complexity of their finances. Marsau began operating through a tangled web of LLCs, subcontractors, and investment partnerships. Latisha, initially a co-founder and partner in many of these ventures, started noticing she was increasingly sidelined in major decisions. Her questions about missing payments or discrepancies in budgets were met with vague reassurances or outright dismissals. Despite their public smiles and Instagram-perfect moments, the couple was drifting apart, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Latisha was growing uneasy, but she hadn't yet realized the magnitude of the betrayal she was about to uncover. By the time whispers began circulating in Huntsville about potential marital discord and shady business dealings, Latisha was already on high alert. She had long suspected that something was wrong, but loyalty and the desire to preserve their family kept her silent. It wasn't until she came across a bank document bearing her forged signature that she decided to act. That single moment sparked a meticulous campaign for the truth that would ultimately lead to Marsau's arrest and incarceration, and Latisha's rebirth as a symbol of quiet strength and justice. The shocking discovery that started at all the moment Latisha discovered her signature had been forged on a legal document was the moment the illusion of her marriage shattered. The paperwork wasn't just any form, it was a binding agreement that transferred control of a lucrative real estate investment into a holding company Latisha had never heard of. Her name was listed as a principal, her digital signature affixed, and yet she had never laid eyes on the form. That realization sent chills down her spine and confirmed what her instincts had long been warning her. Marsau was not only deceiving her, but he was actively putting her at financial and legal risk. Latisha didn't confront Marsau immediately. Instead, she began gathering evidence. She reviewed emails, exported spreadsheets, and consulted with accountants. Her search revealed troubling inconsistencies, bank statements showing withdrawals that didn't match project budgets, wire transfers to unfamiliar entities, and suspicious communication threads between Marsau and unknown business partners. She kept records of everything, storing them in secure locations. She also began working discreetly with a legal advisor, who helped her interpret the documents and determine that there was not just financial deception, but potential criminal liability involved. As her private investigation deepened, Latisha grew emotionally conflicted. She had spent over a decade building a life with Marsau, raising children, building businesses, and sharing dreams. The thought of tearing down that life was terrifying. But she also understood that silence would only enable further harm. With mounting evidence and legal backing, Latisha prepared to file a civil lawsuit. It was not just a legal move, it was a declaration of independence, a stand against manipulation, and a reclaiming of her own voice and power. When news of the lawsuit broke, fans and media outlets were stunned. The picture-perfect Scott marriage was now engulfed in scandal. Latisha alleged not just infidelity or emotional abuse, but deliberate and sustained financial fraud. Public opinion quickly split. Some rushed to Marsau's defense, claiming it was a misunderstanding, while others applauded Latisha's bravery. But the full truth had yet to emerge, and what was to follow would uncover a web of lies so intricate, even Latisha was unprepared for its depth. Marsau's double life unveiled in court once the lawsuit advanced to trial. It took only days for the courtroom to become the stage for one of reality television's most sensational collapses. The evidence presented by Latisha's legal team was staggering in its scope and depth. Marsau had operated like a one-man shell corporation factory, creating dozens of LLCs, trust accounts, and investment groups, many of which bore Latisha's name but had no actual participation from her. The deception was not amateur, it was calculated, professional, and clearly premeditated. The prosecution laid out how Marsau funneled funds from their joint companies into offshore accounts and anonymous holding companies. Contracts were altered, invoices falsified, and business dealings concealed. One of the most shocking revelations was that Marsau had applied for and received multiple COVID-19 relief loans using fraudulent documents. The money, instead of going to payroll or development costs, had been used for personal luxuries, private retreats, designer clothing, high-end vehicles, and real estate purchases under aliases. It wasn't just Latisha who had been deceived. Business partners, contractors, employees, and even financial institutions had been manipulated by Marsau's schemes. The courtroom atmosphere shifted from sympathy to outrage as victim after victim testified about missed payments, dissolved partnerships, and broken trust. Marsau's calm demeanor faltered as he was forced to watch his empire disintegrate under the weight of undeniable facts and damning evidence. The man who once spoke about legacy and wealth was now cornered by the very paper trail he had tried so hard to bury. The legal arguments were brutal, but the emotional moments were even more powerful. Latisha took the stand and described how her husband's betrayal had affected her and their children. She recounted sleepless nights, panic attacks, and the slow erosion of her self-worth. But she also spoke about rediscovering her strength. She reminded the court and the world that justice wasn't just about legal victories. It was about reclaiming power after being silenced. Her testimony electrified the courtroom and made headlines across the nation. The assistant's flash drive and the final blow, just when it seemed the case had reached its climax, an unexpected witness emerged to deliver the final blow. A former assistant to Marsau came forward, testifying that she had helped him manage and conceal many of the fraudulent activities at the heart of the case. She admitted to being paid under the table and being tasked with deleting files, altering spreadsheets, and covering Marsau's tracks. However, fearing legal consequences and seeking redemption, she revealed that she had quietly made backups of everything. The assistant's flash drive contained hundreds of files, emails, voice memos, bank transactions, and unreleased contracts that directly tied Marsau to fraudulent activity. One recording captured him saying, "Just don't put my name or Tisha's. Make it look like it's coming from an outside investor. We'll launder it later." This clip and others like it were enough to spark immediate intervention from federal authorities. The courtroom was stunned. Marsau didn't just lie. He coordinated a complex financial criminal operation with full awareness of the risks and consequences. Federal agents moved swiftly. The Department of Justice froze all of Marsau's assets, launched additional investigations into his finances, and uncovered multiple pending wire transfers to Caribbean accounts. The assistant's flash drive became the linchpin in both the civil and emerging criminal cases. Prosecutors thanked her for her cooperation, but also warned the court that what had been uncovered might only scratch the surface of Marsau's criminal web. Latisha, upon hearing the contents of the flash drive, broke down in court. The realization that her entire financial foundation had been corrupted not just by omission, but by intention was devastating. She wept not only for the years she lost believing in a lie, but also for the damage inflicted on her children, her name, and her dreams. Yet in that same moment, she found closure. The assistant's testimony sealed Marsau's fate, leaving the court no choice but to rule in Latisha's favor and mandate a federal handover for criminal prosecution. The federal charges and prison sentence, once the civil trial concluded with Maurice Scott's financial misconduct irrefutably established. The transition into federal criminal prosecution was swift and uncompromising. The Department of Justice, having monitored the proceedings from the sidelines, wasted no time in filing federal charges. Marsau was formally indicted on multiple counts, including wire fraud, conspiracy to commit bank fraud, tax evasion, and misuse of government funds related to COVID-19 relief programs. These were not mere procedural offenses. They carried weighty implications and exposed him to decades behind bars. The indictment laid out a staggering array of criminal behaviors. Marsau had created at least 14 fraudulent LLCs to hide profits, diverted emergency relief loans intended for employee salaries to personal bank accounts, and forged Latisha's digital signature on over a dozen legally binding contracts. Investigators also discovered that Marsau had routed money through accounts in the British Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands, raising the specter of international money laundering. Each charge added new weight to a collapsing defense. The plea deal offered was rejected, as Marsau continued to claim the evidence was misconstrued. When the federal trial began, Marsau's legal team attempted to pivot strategy, claiming he had been misled by advisors and pressured to meet the expectations of reality television. But prosecutors tore that narrative apart by introducing evidence of premeditation. Emails in which Marsau instructed assistants on how to structure fraudulent loans and messages showing his desire to keep Latisha ignorant, just in case anything hits the fan. These communications painted a chilling portrait of a man fully aware of his criminal intent, yet utterly remorseless in execution. The final sentencing was met with widespread public attention. The judge, referencing the scale and sophistication of the fraud, handed down a sentence of 22 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. In addition, Marsau was ordered to pay restitution totaling over $6.4 million. As he was led out of the courtroom in cuffs, Latisha sat quietly, her face unreadable. There were no tears of joy, no celebratory gestures, just the silent acknowledgement that justice had been served, albeit at a monumental cost. Public reactions and celebrity commentary, the verdict sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, particularly the reality TV community. Fans of Love and Marriage, Huntsville took to social media to express disbelief, support, and a whirlwind of emotions. Many had looked up to the Scotts as a model for Black wealth, family unity, and community leadership. The news that Marsau had used that platform to perpetuate fraud felt like a betrayal to a loyal audience that had emotionally invested in their story for years. Prominent reality stars and celebrities began commenting on the scandal. Some, like former castmates Melody Holt and Mardell, released carefully worded statements that acknowledged the pain of seeing someone they once trusted fall so publicly. Others were more direct, calling Marsau a master manipulator and commending Latisha for her courage. Talk shows, entertainment news programs, and even mainstream outlets like CNN and The View discussed the trial, the implications for the genre, and the way women are often gaslit or silenced in partnerships dominated by charismatic men. Journalists also began scrutinizing the role of production companies in fostering toxic behavior. Was Marsau's criminal activity overlooked in the name of ratings? Were there warning signs that producers deliberately ignored? Editorials appeared in major newspapers, accusing networks of enabling abusive dynamics under the guise of entertainment. One article in The Atlantic noted, "The camera doesn't just capture drama, it can conceal crimes when the person behind the drama controls the narrative." The fallout spread far beyond Marsau, forcing a re-examination of ethical responsibilities in reality television. Meanwhile, support for Latisha reached new heights. She trended for days on Twitter, was invited for interviews by major media outlets, and received thousands of messages from women who saw her as a hero. Advocacy groups fighting against financial abuse in marriages publicly praised her and cited her actions as an empowering model. Social workers and psychologists even noted an uptick in women seeking help after watching Latisha's testimony. Her personal victory became a social movement, one that demanded systemic change, accountability, and respect for women in every sphere of life. Lessons for Women in Business and Marriage. Latisha Scott's ordeal sparked an urgent and widespread dialogue about the intersection of business, marriage, and gender roles. Her story revealed the many ways in which women, even those with professional acumen, can be excluded from crucial decision-making in partnerships cloaked in love. Financial abuse, often invisible and insidious, is rarely discussed in public forums. Yet, Latisha's experience shed light on how trust can be weaponized, how love can blind, and how silence can be mistaken for consent in shared ventures. Financial experts began hosting webinars and writing op-eds about the importance of due diligence within marriages, especially those that involve shared businesses. They emphasized that women should always have independent access to financial documents, maintain separate legal counsel, and create transparent systems of accountability, even within loving relationships. The phrase, emotional betrayal meets fiscal control, was coined by one analyst to describe Marsau's behavior. It captured the reality that what appeared to be a traditional husband-wife dynamic was actually a cover for systematic exploitation. Women's organizations responded by launching new programs dedicated to helping spouses identify early signs of financial manipulation. Support groups grew in size, and therapists reported that more clients were now asking questions about how to regain financial autonomy. Latisha herself became a public advocate for economic independence in relationships. In interviews, she warned women never to sign anything blindly, to trust their instincts when something feels off, and to keep a digital paper trail. Her courage wasn't just about confrontation, it was about preparedness. Ultimately, the greatest lesson came not from her courtroom victory, but from the way she rebuilt herself in the aftermath. She didn't let shame define her, nor did she let victimhood become her label. Latisha showed that strength isn't just found in standing up to an abuser, it's found in the slow, deliberate work of rebuilding a life with integrity. She proved that women don't need to become cold or untrusting to protect themselves. They simply need tools, awareness, and a support system that validates their worth beyond their relationships. The future of the Scott children, as the public focused on the drama of Marsau's downfall and Latisha's triumph, a quieter and more emotionally fraught issue emerged: the well-being of their children. The couple's children, long featured in family-friendly episodes of their reality series, were now caught in the crosshairs of national scandal. Paparazzi stalked their school, classmates asked uncomfortable questions, and social media exploded with theories, assumptions, and gossip about how they were coping. Latisha, always fiercely protective of her children, immediately took steps to shield them from the chaos. She withdrew them from their current school district and enrolled them in a private institution out of state. She retained family counselors, trauma experts, and educational advocates to help them navigate the emotional storm. In interviews, she stated, "My children didn't choose this. I owe them peace." She prioritized not only their safety, but their emotional dignity, ensuring that their father's sins would not become their burden. Despite her efforts, the children were deeply affected. Court documents revealed that at least one of them had witnessed arguments between Marsau and Latisha about finances and had expressed confusion about why their father had to go away for work. Therapists working with the family later testified about the importance of honesty with children in crisis. Latisha, following professional advice, gently explained the reality of the situation without overwhelming them. She chose words like mistakes and justice over crime and prison, opting to preserve their innocence while grounding them in truth. Moving forward, Latisha has vowed to give her children a life defined not by scandal, but by strength, hope, and transparency. She has said she will not hide her past from them, but will frame it as a story of perseverance. Her hope is that when they grow older, they will understand that their mother stood up not just for herself, but for them. She did not allow lies to define their legacy. Instead, she reclaimed it. The Scott children, though young, are now symbols of resilience, and with Latisha's guidance, they will write a new story of their own. Conclusion: justice is only the beginning. The story of Marsau and Latisha Scott is more than a scandal. It's a generational parable about trust, ambition, and truth. Marsau's fall from grace is a lesson in how unchecked ego, dishonesty, and control can destroy everything a person claims to value. His talent and charisma, once assets, became tools of manipulation. He thought he could outsmart the system, outmaneuver his wife, and outplay the legal consequences. But ultimately, truth caught up with him, and it came from the very woman he had underestimated the most. For Latisha, this chapter was painful, transformative, and defining. She emerged from the shadows of her husband's success to become a powerful force in her own right. Her voice, once muted by love and fear, now resonates across communities, industries, and generations. She is a beacon for women everywhere who have been told to stay quiet, to trust blindly, or to wait their turn. Her journey is proof that patience is not passivity and dignity is not weakness. The impact of this case will ripple for years. It will alter how reality TV handles transparency, how families protect shared assets, and how society views the power dynamics in professional marriages. And while Marsau's sentence marks an end, it is not the conclusion. Latisha's story is just beginning. She is writing a new legacy, one built not on illusion, but on truth, accountability, and self-respect. Justice was served. But what matters more is what came after. the rebuilding of a woman's life, the restoration of her agency, and the message she sends to the world, that betrayal may break a heart, but truth rebuilds a soul. Latisha did not just survive Marsau's deception. She transformed it into a movement,